Today I want to talk to you about shoulder mobility. I have a history of shoulder problems. I've had AC joint sprains in either shoulder, and a few years ago I was having pain and numbness in my shoulders. It would wake me up in the middle of the night, barely got more than a few hours of sleep. I started seeing an acupuncturist and they were able to make a big difference. But one of the things that really gave me control over my shoulder issues was hanging. And there's this particular study and this particular neurosurgeon from the States named Dr. Kirsch, who talks about and advocates hanging to his clients before they go for surgery. He did a study that involved a bunch of people who were candidates for surgery. I think it was 95% of them were actually able to resolve their issues without needing surgery using his hanging regimen. I gave it a try, and after doing it consistently for a while, it started to really make a difference. And at times when I got busy and fell out of the practice, I'd feel the problem come back. So I kept doing the routine and the regimen, and things eventually got a lot better. And now I don't even do the Kirsch regimen. I just hang a couple of times a day. But if you're in a really bad place with your shoulders and you've got some self-treatment to do and it's really creating a problem in the way that you're enjoying your life, then this routine might be something you want to do. It takes about 10 minutes a day and it involves hanging and a little bit of light weights. So I'm just going to demonstrate a little bit what we're going to do for the hanging. Now you're going to find a bar, and it doesn't have to be a high bar like this that I have to jump up to. You can be hanging with your feet on the ground and you just bend your knees. You don't have to lift your legs off the ground. You just put most of your weight into your shoulders and you hang as if you were hanging straight down. So if I'm up here, I want to hold the bar. If it's a small bar like this, my thumb is going over my index finger. I'm really focusing my grip on my pinky finger and my ring finger and my middle finger, not so much my index and thumb. They're not really doing all that much. So they're just hooking and helping to keep my hand from slipping off of the bar. So what you want to do here is you don't want to be hanging up like this. You want to just let your ears kind of hang down to your shoulders. You don't want your head jutting forward and you don't want your ribs thrusting out. So try and let your body just hang down as much as possible. Take note if you do have some thrusting or some head hanging, and see what you can do to adjust that and see how it feels. So for the Kirsch hanging technique, you're going to hang for 30 seconds to a minute. So if you can't hang from a dead hang for 30 seconds, you should do it with your feet on the ground to start so that you can actually do it for that length. And I really want to just hang down into my shoulders so that my arms and shoulders actually get that decompression feeling. So I usually try to hang for about a minute, but anything from 30 seconds to a minute is good. After that, you can take a 1 minute break and then go and hang again. So what Kirsch recommends is 10 minutes like this. Hang as long as you can, you come down, you take a 1 minute break, and then go up again, hang as long as you can, come down, 1 minute break. The whole time you're keeping the timer going, and once 10 minutes runs out, you're done the hanging portion of the exercise. If you're finding it hard to motivate yourself to spend 10 minutes doing that, don't do 10 minutes, do less, right? Maybe you'll be able to work your way up to that. Maybe you don't even need that. And he doesn't recommend doing it every day. I did it every day. I found that I'd have problems if I didn't do it every day. But what he recommends is 3 days a week for this routine, right? So that's about 1 minute break, and then you get back up and you do your hang one more time. So really making sure that you're letting everything hang down, and you can time it and look at the clock to time yourself. But when I'm doing this dead hang here, there's just a subtle swinging forward and backward that naturally happens. And I've found that if I count about 25 of those, that's about a minute. Keep a watch close by or do this in front of a clock, and that'll probably work best. You just hang down, take some deep breaths, and one of the interesting things about this is when you're hanging in this kind of position, what's happening is your acromion process, which is the outer tip of your collarbone, and your humerus, which is your arm bone, they actually connect and form a part-time joint. And we didn't really know that until just a little while ago. If I'm up like this, it's not forming that part-time joint, But if I'm holding something and my weight's hanging down, all of a sudden that tip of the acromion process and the head of the humerus connect. And that hanging down actually changes the shape of the acromion process. And if you don't do enough hanging on a regular basis and get into those overhead positions, just the weight of your arm and all the forward activities we do with our hands in front of us or our hands down, just the weight of the arm actually changes the shape of the acromion process at the end of the collarbone there, and it hooks it down, and that actually creates a limit to the space that everything that needs to get through there can get through. And then that's when you start to feel some pinching and discomfort and problems start to occur. And I think a lot of these problems that occur in the shoulders can also come from the upper spine as well, and hanging creates that decompression. You'll definitely start to feel it after you start to be able to relax into the hang. The decompression and a few adjustments might happen in the spine while you're breathing and hanging. It shouldn't be a problem to do a hang with your feet on the ground if there's discomfort and you can bear with it. Dr. John Kirsch says that's not an issue, but what I would recommend is leaning up against a wall and then just hanging down like this to start. And you don't actually have to be in this full position. Work your way up to that and work your way up to hanging, but start with having a less of an angle and still getting those arms up overhead. So you can replace the hanging portion with that. Pretend I just did 10 minutes of hanging, or however long you want to do for your timer. And as soon as you're finished, you're going to get a couple of weights like this. And there's 3 kind of movements you're going to do. I found 15 repetitions is enough. You can try that. I do 15 repetitions of each. I started with 1 pound weights and I slowly worked my way up, and now I do 8 pound weights. It's a pretty good sweet spot for me for these exercises. So you're basically just going to stand and my palms are facing behind me, and I'm going to keep my hands in that orientation as I raise my arms up overhead. Every time I do it for the first time, I get a pop in my collarbone. You do 15 of these, and if you really have to fight to get the weights up, then the weights are probably too heavy for you. So I'm telling you, 1 pound weights is probably all you need to get the benefit from this exercise. So you can go slowly. I'll show you from the side here. And I'm just bringing the weights up overhead. I'm keeping those palms facing that same direction. So when they're up overhead, my palms are facing forward. When they're down below, they're facing back. And you want to avoid pushing your head forward when you bring your arms up. You want to keep your spine where everything's aligned properly. You don't want to be out of alignment like this. You want to be out of alignment like this. So make sure that you're not tipping yourself back to make it feel like you're actually doing more upwards movement than you actually are. And if it's uncomfortable or painful to do those movements, you should just start with the hanging. The other things we do with the weights, start with my arms down to the sides. My palms are facing my thighs, and then I'm bringing my arms up overhead. My backs of my hands are facing each other when my arms are up overhead, and this is the motion for this. You should be using a weight where you can do this without feeling like you're getting stuck halfway and without feeling like you have to jump your legs into it. So from the side, I'm trying to keep my arms in line with my body and bring them up overhead and keep those arms from turning. So my palms are facing my legs, and when they get up, they're facing out. And then the last one, we're going to be bending forward. I just bend my knees and I hinge at my hips. So I'm keeping my back in a neutral position, and then my palms face forward, my hands hang down, and then I'm just bringing my arms back behind me. From the side, arms are down, back is neutral. I'm not parallel to the ground. I've got a little bit of an angle, and then my arms go up behind me, and I'm trying to keep the weights close to my body. So I'm not fanning my arms out to the side, I'm keeping them fairly close. 3 exercises, 15 this way, 15 this way. I'm scared of hitting that. And 15 this way. Try doing 1 30-second to a minute hang and then take a 1-minute break, and then do it again, and then try the weights. If you got some shoulder issues, that might help. If you don't have shoulder issues, I don't think you may need to do the weights. The hanging is really what's going to benefit you, I think. So if you can do 1 or 2 or 3 1-minute hangs a day, that would be probably an excellent addition to your routine if you're trying to benefit your shoulders. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.